I'm a little out of words. I think this time of the year is.
Eala just destroyed tennis. The insane uprising that's about to flip the WTA upside down. The tennis world thought they knew what was coming in 2025. They had their favorites mapped out, their predictions locked in, their safe bets already placed. The commentators had circled the usual suspects in bold marker. The analysts had crafted their careful narratives about who would dominate and who would fade into the background noise of another predictable season. Eala's name? It was practically invisible, lost somewhere in the depths of the draw sheets where dreams go to die quietly and nobody bothers to look. But then something happened that nobody saw coming. Not the coaches, not the bookmakers, not even the most optimistic fans from the Philippines who dared to hope their young star might make a little noise on the international stage. What Eala did wasn't just win a few matches or pull off a cute upset that would trend for an afternoon before everyone moved on. What she did was detonate a bomb in the middle of the tennis establishment, and the shockwaves are still reverberating through locker rooms, coaching boxes, and front offices around the world. When that final point landed and the match was over, a silence descended over the arena that felt almost supernatural. It wasn't the polite quiet of respectful applause waiting to happen. It was the stunned, suffocating silence that only comes when thousands of people simultaneously realize they were completely and utterly wrong about everything they thought they knew. Somewhere between the opening serve and the final winner, the entire narrative of the tournament had been hijacked, rewritten, and set on fire. The favorites stumbled. The champions hesitated. The so-called experts frantically scrambled to explain what they were witnessing and came up empty. Standing in the eye of this hurricane was Eala, nervous energy of a young player grateful just to be competing at this level. This was the cold, calculated precision of someone who had been preparing for this exact moment since she could hold a racket. No panic attacks, no wild celebrations after every point, no visible cracks in the armor. Each rally had purpose. Every shot carried weight. Her movements were fluid and efficient, her strikes deliberate and devastating. She wasn't just participating in these matches. She was controlling them, dictating the pace, manipulating the momentum, and ultimately determining the outcome with a level of composure that made seasoned veterans look rattled by comparison. The crowd sensed something extraordinary was happening before the scoreboard could confirm it. The polite murmurs transformed into gasps of disbelief. Whispers rippled through the stands like electricity. Fans who couldn't have picked Eala out of a lineup 24 hours earlier suddenly found themselves on the edge of their seats, hearts pounding, witnessing something that felt historic unfolding in real time. The tension was so thick it was almost visible, hanging in the air like smoke. On the other side of the net, the favorite tried everything in their arsenal to regain control. Bigger swings, riskier shots, flashy moves designed to intimidate and overwhelm the teenager across from them. None of it worked. With each point lost, you could see the confidence draining away like water through a sieve. Doubt crept in through the cracks. Hesitation followed close behind. And through it all, the young challenger never flinched, never wavered, never gave an inch. She wasn't reacting to the pressure of the moment. She was owning it, shaping it, using it as fuel. When match point finally arrived, the entire arena held its collective breath. One final exchange of ground strokes. One perfectly executed return that left no room for doubt. One opponent mistake too many under the crushing weight of the moment. Game. Set. Match. Eala walked off that court exactly the same way she had walked onto it. Quietly, calmly, methodically, like this was just another Tuesday practice session and not the upset that would send shockwaves around the tennis world. But everyone watching knew better. This wasn't routine. This wasn't expected. This was a seismic event, and somewhere in that stunned silence, a new star had just announced her arrival with the kind of authority that cannot be ignored or dismissed. Because here's the thing that makes this story even more terrifying for everyone else on the tour. This wasn't luck. This wasn't some viral fluke moment destined to be forgotten by next week. This wasn't a one-time miracle that could be written off as an anomaly. This wasn't an upset brewing in the background, waiting to surprise everyone in the final set. This was an upset that was actively happening in real time, and everyone watching could feel it in their bones. The first set was a genuine battle, a true war of attrition that tested both players to their limits. The favorite deployed every weapon in their considerable arsenal, crushing forehands, clever drop shots, desperate slices designed to disrupt rhythm and force errors. Nothing worked. Alex had an answer for everything, a counter for every strategy, a solution for every problem. Then came the moment that fundamentally changed the energy of the entire tournament. The shot that would be replayed on highlight reels for years to come. A cross-court backhand winner that seemed to defy physics, leaving the crowd gasping in collective amazement and the opponent literally frozen in place, racket hanging limply, unable to process what had just happened. The scoreboard updated. Alex had taken the first set, but the real shock wasn't the score itself. It was the way she processed it, walking to her chair with a towel draped over her shoulder, calm and collected, as if this had all been choreographed during a routine practice session. No fist pumps, no screaming, no emotional release, just pure, distilled control and a confidence that was starting to feel genuinely eerie. The second set wasn't a match anymore. It was a masterclass, a clinic, a systematic dismantling of a player who should have had every advantage. The crowd, initially supportive of the favorite and clearly expecting order to be restored, began to shift their allegiance in real time. You could hear it spreading through the stands like wildfire. Who is this kid? Where did she come from? How is this possible? Questions that nobody had good answers for. Social media platforms exploded. Video clips of her footwork, her anticipation, her punishing returns went viral before the set was even finished. Every single point became a psychological battle, and the favorite's frustration grew more visible with each unforced error, each missed opportunity, each moment of realization that this wasn't going to turn around. The favorite tried to intimidate her, to use their physical presence and reputation to push the teenager out of her rhythm and force mistakes. Alex didn't even acknowledge the attempt. Her eyes stayed locked on the ball with the focus of a sniper. Her mind stayed locked on the present moment with the discipline of a meditation master. By the final game, the stadium had transformed into a chaotic mixture of disbelief, hysteria, and pure, unadulterated shock. The favorite made one last desperate attempt to change the momentum, a risky serve placement that could have potentially turned the entire match on its head. But Alex had already read it. She moved early, positioning herself perfectly, reading the play like a veteran with decades of experience packed into her young frame, and returned it for a winner so clean it could have been used in an instructional video. Match point. The arena erupted, but not in celebration for the favorite who had just been dismantled. This was the eruption of people realizing they had just witnessed something they would tell their grandchildren about, something that would be referenced in tennis history books, something that changed the conversation forever. A young player from the Philippines, someone most of the crowd hadn't heard of before this tournament started, had just systematically destroyed a legitimate titan of the sport in straight sets. No drama, no lucky bounces, no controversial line calls saving the day. Just pure, undeniable, overwhelming superiority. As Alex left the court, whispers spread like a virus through the media tent, across every social media platform, and into locker rooms where players suddenly felt a lot less secure about their positions in the hierarchy. The message was becoming crystal clear to everyone paying attention. This isn't luck. This isn't random. This isn't going away. She's real. The brackets had been shattered into a million pieces. The predictions had been set on fire, and the tennis world had no choice but to take notice because somehow, impossibly, the real storm was just beginning. Then came the match that would cement the legend in stone and make it impossible for anyone to dismiss what was happening as a fluke. Round 3 against Madison Keys, a genuine Grand Slam finalist with one of the biggest serves and most powerful ground strokes on the entire tour. Someone who had been in situations like this hundreds of times and knew exactly how to handle the pressure. The cameras caught Alex's expression as she walked onto the court, completely unreadable, giving away absolutely nothing. The crowd murmured with anticipation mixed with disbelief, still processing everything that had already happened. The first set ended 6-3, and Keys shook her head in visible disbelief as she sat down, trying to figure out what adjustments could possibly turn this around. Commentators who had seen everything the sport had to offer struggled to find appropriate words, finally settling on variations of, "I have never seen someone this composed at this age against this level of power and experience." Then came the second set, where the real escalation happened and any remaining doubt was obliterated. Keys fought valiantly, refusing to go down without giving everything she had, but Alex seemed to have downloaded every possible response in advance. Every serve return found its mark. Every cross-court backhand cut through the air like it was personally offended by resistance. When match point arrived, even commentators with decades of experience found themselves momentarily speechless, fumbling for words adequate to describe what they were witnessing. One final winner down the line, struck with casual confidence, and the arena erupted in applause that was equal parts celebration and shock. Eala had not just beaten Madison Keys. She had crushed her, dominated her, made her look ordinary in a way that simply shouldn't have been possible. But the drama was far from over. In fact, it was about to reach levels that would make everything that had happened so far look tame by comparison. The internet caught fire instantly. Memes flooded every timeline. Phrases like "Madison who" and "the teen who broke Miami" started trending alongside confused posts from casual fans trying to understand where this destroyer of worlds had suddenly appeared from. And then, just when people thought the story couldn't possibly get any crazier, the tournament schedule for the next round dropped. Her opponent would be Iga Swiatek, the world number one, the dominant force in women's tennis, someone who had been crushing opponents with contemptuous ease for months. The stakes had officially transcended anything resembling normal. Very few people gave Alex any chance whatsoever. Most analysts didn't even expect her to hold serve consistently against someone of Swiatek's caliber. The tournament had officially spiraled into complete chaos, the kind of narrative collapse that sports psychologists study and television executives dream about. Eala's shocking string of victories weren't just wins. They were seismic events that fundamentally shook the entire structure of women's tennis. The backlash started subtly at first, the way these things always do when people's deeply held beliefs are challenged. Some seasoned players tried to dismiss her extraordinary run as nothing more than a fortunate streak. "It's a great week for sure, but let's see if she can handle the pressure when it really matters next time," one respected analyst said, trying to project confidence while clearly feeling deeply unsettled about everything happening. But the fans weren't buying that narrative for a second. The entire Philippines erupted in collective celebration, treating Alex's success as a point of national pride. Government leaders sent public congratulations. Sports networks interrupted regular programming to cover her matches. Young tennis players across the country suddenly had a new idol, someone who looked like them and proved that the highest levels of the sport weren't reserved exclusively for players from traditional tennis powerhouses. Yet the criticism remained unavoidable, growing louder with each passing day. Some experts tried to downplay her achievements by pointing to lucky draws or weak competition, as if beating multiple established stars was somehow less impressive if you could create a convoluted argument about scheduling. Online debates became genuinely heated, with supporters and skeptics going to war in comment sections across every platform. Meanwhile, inside the closed world of players' locker rooms, the whispers had transformed into full-blown warnings. Opponents who hadn't given Alex a second thought before the tournament started were now watching her match videos obsessively, studying every serve pattern, analyzing every return position, scrutinizing every single movement for weaknesses they could exploit. Nothing about her was being taken lightly anymore. The casual dismissiveness had evaporated completely, replaced by genuine concern about what this new player represented for everyone's rankings and career trajectories. The semifinals arrived like an approaching storm that everyone could see coming, but nobody knew how to prepare for adequately. Eala had already shattered every reasonable expectation multiple times over. Now she faced Jessica Pegula, a player whose combination of experience, power, and tactical intelligence made her an absolutely formidable obstacle that had ended many Cinderella stories before they could reach their fairy tale conclusions. As Alex stepped onto the court for what would be the biggest match of her young career, the electricity in the air was almost tangible. You could feel it in the stands, in the broadcast booth, in living rooms across the world where fans had tuned in specifically to see if this impossibly magical run could continue for one more match. The beginning was tentative on both sides, each player carefully probing for weaknesses, testing different strategies, looking for an opening that could be exploited. Pegula, with all her experience in big matches, tried to impose her preferred style immediately, hitting flat and hard, using her power to push Alex backwards and force defensive errors. For a brief moment, it actually seemed like the veteran's approach might succeed, that experience and physicality would finally be the factors that brought this unprecedented run to its inevitable conclusion. But then Alex started returning everything with that same uncanny composure that had characterized her entire tournament. By the middle of the first set, it became abundantly clear that this match would be decided purely by who wanted it more, who could outlast the other in a genuine battle of wills that would test every aspect of both players' games and mental fortitude. Pegula, the experienced champion that she was, recognized the opportunity immediately and seized it without hesitation. She started hitting winners with surgical precision, forcing Alex into long, physically exhausting rallies that gradually wore down her legs in reaction time. The final games were tense beyond anything the tournament had produced yet, every point feeling like it carried enormous weight, every exchange potentially capable of swinging the entire match. Ultimately, after a battle that left both players visibly exhausted, Pegula managed to edge out a victory that was far closer than anyone had predicted before the tournament began. Eala's miraculous run had finally come to an end. But here's what made this loss fundamentally different from typical tournament defeats. It didn't diminish her impact, even slightly. If anything, reaching the semifinals and taking a top player to the absolute limit somehow amplified the significance of everything she had accomplished. She had proven beyond any shadow of doubt that she could challenge the absolute best players in the world on their terms. She had forced top-ranked professionals to completely reconsider their approach to matches against her. She had announced herself as a legitimate force in women's tennis in the most emphatic way possible. The post-match reactions from players, coaches, and analysts came flooding in immediately, and they were remarkable in their unanimity. Pegula herself, despite just winning a hard-fought semifinal match, seemed almost more impressed with her opponent than satisfied with her own performance. "She's absolutely fearless out there," Pegula told reporters, shaking her head with a mixture of admiration and relief. "I've never faced someone with that particular combination of technical skill and mental composure at her age. The way she handled pressure situations that should have overwhelmed her was genuinely scary from my perspective across the net." Even critics who had spent the entire tournament trying to downplay Alex's achievements found themselves forced to concede the obvious. This wasn't some one-time miracle that could be forgotten. This wasn't a fluke that happened because of fortunate circumstances and wouldn't be repeated. Eala had officially arrived on the biggest stage in tennis, and she had done it in such spectacular fashion that nobody could pretend otherwise. But here is where this already incredible story takes a massive turn that most casual observers completely missed while they were focused on the immediate drama unfolding in Miami. While fans were losing their minds over the individual match results and the tournament chaos, the Real insiders were quietly doing the math and realizing something that should terrify everyone currently occupying the top spots in the WTA rankings. The tournament ended, champions were crowned and celebrated, interviews were conducted, and articles were written. But the story of Eala's seismic impact on tennis is actually just the prologue, the opening chapter, to a much bigger and potentially more dramatic story that's developing right now for the upcoming season. Because we need to talk about the WTA rankings and the absolutely massive shakeup that's coming in January, a restructuring that could fundamentally alter the competitive landscape of women's tennis. At the start of last season, Victoria Mboko and Eala were still grinding away in lower-tier tournaments, playing matches that most tennis fans never heard about, competing on courts that didn't have television cameras, earning ranking points one hard-fought victory at a time. But fast forward to right now, to this exact moment, and they are preparing to face the absolute best players in women's tennis when the new WTA Tour season gets officially underway in just a few weeks. Just over 12 months ago, Mboko was absolutely dominating on the ITF Women's World Tennis Tour, putting together an incredible string of victories that caught the attention of scouts and coaches, while Eala was competing on the WTA Challenger Tour and steadily improving her ranking. Along with fellow rising stars Maya Joint and Iva Jovic, plus the remarkable comeback story of Lois Boisson, these 5 women have completely upended the established system in ways that are only now becoming apparent. But here's where things get absolutely wild, where the real story that nobody has fully grasped yet begins to reveal itself. What a difference a year makes is an understatement that doesn't come close to capturing the magnitude of what's happening. Boisson, Joint, Jovic, and Eala are all now comfortably inside the top 100, positions they have earned through consistent performance and dramatic victories that prove they belong at this level. And here is the absolute kicker, the detail that should be keeping the current top 10 awake at night, with genuine anxiety about their positions. All 5 of these so-called newcomers will be competing on the main WTA Tour when January arrives, and they have gained direct entries into several major events including the Australian Open, one of the 4 most prestigious tournaments in all of tennis. But here's what makes this situation uniquely dangerous for everyone currently ranked above them. Because they spent most of last year competing at lower-tier events rather than on the main tour, they have almost 0 ranking points to defend. Do you understand what that means in practical terms? That means every single match they win is pure profit in the ranking system. Every victory adds points to their total without subtracting anything from previous years. They are going to absolutely skyrocket up the rankings if they maintain anything close to their current form. Let's break down the mathematics in detail, because this is genuinely where the story becomes spicy and the implications become impossible to ignore. These numbers tell a story that should be front-page news in the tennis world, but somehow most people still haven't fully processed what's coming. First up, Victoria Mboko, the teenager who has already shocked the tennis world multiple times. She was competing on the ITF circuit in January of last year, playing in France and Guadeloupe, winning 2 tournaments at a level most fans never pay attention to. Because she didn't participate in any WTA main draw qualifiers during that period, she only has 70 ranking points to defend in the first month of the new year. 70 points. That's essentially nothing at this level of competition. Given that she is currently sitting at number 18 in the world, and playing with the kind of confidence that suggests she's just getting started, she has a massive and very realistic opportunity to surge directly into the top 10 if she performs well at the United Cup and the Australian Open. The established top 10 players have officially been put on notice that their positions are no longer secure, that a teenager who most of them had never heard of 18 months ago is coming for their spots with nothing to lose and everything to gain. Then you have Maya Joint, currently sitting at world number 32 and playing some of the best tennis of her young career. She has slightly more work to do than Mboko in terms of defending points, but the situation is still remarkably favorable. She will lose 98 points from her run to the semifinals of the Hobart International last year, plus 32 from Brisbane and 10 from her first-round appearance at the Australian Open. It's a total of 140 points she needs to defend, which sounds like a lot until you realize how many points are available in these early season tournaments. It's tricky, definitely more challenging than Mboko's situation, but she has already proven she has the game to compete at this level and the mental fortitude to win matches when the pressure is highest. Iva Jovic represents another genuinely dangerous wildcard in this equation. The young American started her breakthrough season at the Australian Open and made an immediate impact, defeating Nuria Perez-Diaz in her debut before losing to Elena Rybakina, one of the most powerful players on tour. She's currently ranked number 35 in the world and only has 70 points to defend in the early part of the season. She's starting her campaign in Auckland, and if she gets hot early and builds some momentum, she could climb rapidly. There's absolutely nothing stopping her from making a serious run into the top 20 if things break her way in the first few months. But the real dark horse in all of this, the player who could potentially make the most dramatic leap up the rankings, is Lois Boisson. The French star is an absolute ticking time bomb for the established ranking order, a player who could explode up the standings so quickly that it makes everyone else's rise look gradual by comparison. She didn't make her debut last season until March because of injury issues that kept her sidelined during the critical Australian summer. That means she has literally 0 points to defend in January. Not 70, not 50, 0. In total, Alex has just 55 points to defend during the critical early season period. That's it. 55 points standing between her current ranking and a potential surge that could take her into the top 30 or even higher if she performs well. She has already registered for the ASB Classic and the Australian Open, two tournaments where she will have opportunities to earn significant ranking points. If she brings even half the fire and focus she displayed against Madison Keys and Jessica Pegula in Miami, she isn't going to be sitting at number 53 for very long at all. She's coming for the top seeds with the kind of mathematical advantage that doesn't come around very often in professional tennis. The tennis world has reacted to all of this information, but the response suggests that most people haven't fully understood the implications of what these numbers actually mean yet. Eala and this entire new generation of players aren't just winning individual matches and climbing gradually through the rankings over several years the way young players traditionally do. They are fundamentally rewriting the narrative of the sport in real time, taking advantage of a unique mathematical situation that allows them to surge upward without the burden of defending significant points from previous seasons. The storm that shocked everyone in Miami wasn't just an isolated incident, a fun story that would be forgotten once the next tournament started. That storm was merely the first warning, the initial rumble of thunder announcing that something much bigger was approaching. The real storm, the one that will reshape the competitive landscape of women's tennis, is coming to Melbourne in just a few weeks. And based on everything we've seen so far, based on the mathematics of the ranking system and the momentum these young players have built, it's going to be absolutely spectacular to witness. Sitting alone in her quiet hotel room after the semifinals loss in Miami, physically exhausted but mentally energized, Alex reflected on everything she had accomplished over the past incredible week. Her journey had started long before these bright lights and packed stadiums, long before the television cameras and social media explosions. It began with early mornings at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Spain, endless hours of drilling the same shots over and over until they became automatic, sacrifices that few people outside of professional sports could possibly imagine or understand. Eala's journey over these past months has been so much more than just a collection of victories and losses, more than just statistics and ranking points. It's been a story about courage in the face of overwhelming odds, about maintaining focus when the entire world is suddenly watching, about having the audacity to challenge the established order and the skill to back up that audacity with performance. If you enjoyed following the incredible story of Eala's historic rise through the ranks of professional tennis, and you want to stay completely updated on this absolutely insane ranking race that's about to unfold over the next few months, you know exactly what to do. Smash that like button to let the algorithm know this is the kind of content people want to see. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single update as this story continues to develop. And turn on those notification bells because I'm telling you right now, the next chapter of this tennis revolution is just getting started, and you absolutely do not want to miss a single moment of what's coming. The established stars are looking over their shoulders nervously. The young challengers are hungry and fearless. The mathematics of the ranking system have created a perfect storm of opportunity. And somewhere in the middle of all of this chaos and excitement, Eala is preparing to prove that what happened in Miami was just the beginning of something that will reshape women's tennis for years to come. This is Chatterbox, and we'll see you in the next one when the fireworks really start.